Fellas, today's video, I want us to discuss what a god roll really means. See, back in Destiny 1, we had random rolls. There was actually a lot of different weapons, but, here's the thing. You probably only kept a handful of them because you decided at some point what was considered a god roll in your mind, and you essentially kept the best of the best. Now, in terms of all of our legendaries here coming up in year 2 with Forsaken, weapons will roll with 2 different traits. We'll also roll with a possible mod, and on top of that, you can apply another mod. So there's some manipulation here that you can do to make these weapons even better. So let's talk about these perks and what's happening. Before we get into today's video, guys, I am doing a Forsaken giveaway. I'll be pulling it on the 30th. This is simply for just the standard edition, guys. But anyways, there will be a link below. Let's talk about random rolls now and god rolls. First up, we got a lot of different mods here. These are the applied mods. You've got things like boss spec, which increases damage against bosses and vehicles. Major spec, which deals extra damage against powerful enemies. Minor spec deals extra damage against rank and file enemies, so you just regular enemies. Radar tuner. So this is essentially means your radar will immediately return when you stop aiming down sights. So when I think of weapons right here that would do really well here, shotguns, snipers, some scout rifles that have really slow handling, anything that really puts you in tunnel vision mode, or something that you need to react quickly, like a shotgun coming out of your sights and immediately seeing what's around you. Icarus grip, improve accuracy while airborne. So I like to put this on things like SMGs. You're going to be airborne a bunch with SMGs. Hand cannons, really good with this. But even some other stuff that you can combine here. 720 round per minute auto rifles. It is an auto rifle, but you can treat it almost like an SMG. Not sure how it's going to look in this next sandbox, but you can play extremely rushy with a 720 auto rifle. The Dead Orbit 720 round per minute auto rifle is a perfect example of a gun you can play very aggressively with. That would benefit from something like Icarus. Now, back in D1, I had a scout rifle called Kakaitis. It also had Icarus on it. It is a high impact variant scout, and it did benefit a lot with Icarus. So again, there's a lot of different combinations you can go here, but that's what I would choose. Another mod here, backup mag, which increases magazine. What's so cool is I actually have a build here that we're going to talk a little more about backup mag and how it can be utilized even better, despite that being more of a passive mod. You also got counterbalance stock, which reduces the recoil deviation for the weapon. For me, this is really big on pulse rifles. As far as auto rifles go, I would really only put this on there if it has a recoil direction of 70 or less. That is a hidden stat, but you can look at it, and if it is 70 or less, then sure, try out counterbalance and see if it actually helps you out there. Some hand cannons do have a different recoil pattern. If you take something like Ayas Luna from Destiny 1, it kicked to the side a little bit. So if you just absolutely dislike it, we'll try a counterbalance stock on it. Maybe that'll help you out. 900 round per minute SMGs is also something I would try out with these counterbalance stocks. Target adjuster. This weapon gains better target acquisition. This really just depends on the stickiness of the weapon. If the gun deviates from the target a lot, then I would try a mod out to see if it would help. Now, hidden hand was like, what, a 15% buff there to aim assist. But to me, the weapons that benefit the most is something like snipers benefit here, scouts, hand cannons. Anything that heavily relies on precision can really benefit from targeting adjuster. I'm not saying you can't use auto rifles and any other fast rate of fire weapons. The problem is at some point your recoil will outrun your reticle. So even with targeting adjuster, it won't help that much versus something like, well, counterbalance. Another mod we got to see was free hand grip, which increases accuracy and ready speed while firing from the hip. So for me, this would be wonderful for slow handling weapons. 110 round per minute hand cannons, especially 150 round per minute scouts, and even 340 round per minute pulse rifles. Now, we saw a bunch of different perks here on different weapons, and I'm sure this is nowhere near all the perks we're going to see. Hopefully. I want so many perks, man. It just keeps us busy for days, months, years. Genesis, though, was a perk that's really interesting, especially for PvE. Matching this weapon's damage type to an enemy energy shield will immediately regenerate the round in the magazine. Now, this would be nasty on something like a rocket launcher or even shotguns or any power weapon for that matter. But if you can pop multiple opponent shields with something like a rocket launcher, it would be interesting if we could possibly overfill the magazine. Now, the rest of the perks is some things we already have here in D2. Zen Moment, Outlaw, Rangefinder is a new one. explosive payload, drop mag, threat detector, rampage, high impact reserves, and under pressure. Now let's talk real quick about the god roll, what we consider a god roll. Here's the thing, what may be my god roll is not yours, and what you may deem as trash is what I find to be the best thing since popcorn. So it really comes down to the user. But let me break this down because there will be some synergy that some of these perks, and you have manipulation there with the mods that can go hand in hand with it. So we got to see a pulse rifle called the Bygones. It is a 390 round per minute pulse. What's interesting about it, it was rocking both high impact reserves and under pressure together. Now, let's talk about the synergy here. So high impact reserves, the rounds at the end of the magazine deal more damage. Now, under pressure is another perk there, improves stability and accuracy as the magazine gets lower. So you can already see some synergy there that is all happening at the bottom half of that magazine. So let's discuss the possible god roll here. In this scenario, I would really want to choose a 340 pulse rifle that has good base stats and decent recoil direction with these rolls. The reason why I say 340 is I want to be able to consistently 2 bursts. As a 390 round per minute pulse, we already know it's going to be doing 31 per crit. So you won't be able to 2 bursts. Even with high impact reserves, maybe you'll be able to 2 bursts, but it's very unlikely. It's probably only going to up that damage by 1 more. So to me, a 340 round per minute pulse would be better with these perks. Now the next thing I would do is mod it with backup mag to increase its magazine size. Doing so will now probably throw that mag size maybe close to 40, and you want to now prime your weapon down to that bottom half of the magazine. Depending on how much high impact reserves help though, you'll most likely get a guaranteed 2 burst kill each time, and it should be even more manageable with under pressure activated. So in that situation, guys, you see 2 sets of perks there that can be utilized and synergized together to make a god roll weapon. Sure, you got to do a little more work to it. You have to apply a mod to it to take advantage of that tail end of the magazine even longer, and you got to prime your weapon. But say for instance this throws that damage up by 1 or 2 more, it could result in one of your shots being a body shot versus a critical shot, making this a more forgiving 2 burst. Not only that, you're also taking advantage of under pressure, meaning your accuracy and stability is even better. So it's even going to be easier to get that crispy 2 burst on enemies. Moving on, we got to see a kinetic sniper rifle, Long Shadow. Now this weapon is definitely rolled well for PvE. You got things like drop mag on it for that quick reload speed, field prep for that increased ammo reserves, and faster reload when crouched, triple tap for consistent DPS if you can land your crits. So the god roll here is not necessarily to make this weapon super op in PvE. It's more or less to make the weapon have good ammo conservation, and that quick reload there also with triple tap means you can consistently keep throwing damage out. So when Forsaken drops, there's going to be a lot of different things you can mod and roll your weapon to be. Now boss spec, major spec, and minor spec, I don't know how much damage those 3 are going to do. I'm assuming it should be pretty significant. But as far as from Crucible standpoint, the weapons that you would deem as god roll weapons, when I look at a gun, I look where does the gun lack the most, and I try to target those areas. 110 round per minute hand cannons really have slow handling. Now if I can throw something like a perk on it called Snapshot, well then I won't even have to worry about handling all that much. So that now allows me to masterwork this weapon to other areas, maybe to stability, maybe to range. So the beautiful thing about random rolls is that there's a lot of guns that at a first glance would be deemed as trash, but there's been so many weapons that we picked up even back in Destiny 1 that were really good guns once you got the right set of rolls. But here in D2 with Forsaken, it's going to be even different with these applied mods and masterworks to even tweak it even more. So when you get a random roll weapon, see if the perks themselves have synergy with each other. Find where the weapon is lacking the most. Is it stability? Is it handling? Is it range? Is it magazine? Whatever. Now apply a mod that will strengthen that weakness and masterwork whatever is left that keeps that weapon from becoming god tier. So guys, that is exactly how I look at weapons. Hopefully this video helped you in deciding what's considered a god roll gun. Your vault is about to look completely different than what it probably looked this past year. It will be filled with what you would consider God rolls. And they actually will be God rolls, because with every gun that I ever kept back in Destiny 1, they all had a purpose. They really did. And I remembered exactly where I got it, what I did to have to grind for it, and the purpose for keeping it. So guys, I hope this video helped you. If you enjoyed it, definitely hit that like button, guys. And as always,
slap that like button like your mama told you right.
Make the effort.